Oh no.
Der Stein und die Sonne uns Nacht.
Hello everybody, my name is Red Dragon. Welcome back to the Welcome to War Thunder series, episode 4, German Ground Forces Rank 1. I know it's been a while since the last video, I know you're tired of hearing me say that, but I've been gone for the summer. This is the first video back that I'm recording live from scratch. It's good to be back, I'm really enjoying it, despite the fact that this is like my 10th take to get this right. This will be the final one, I promise that to myself. Let's hope I'm right. For those of you that have not seen this series before, let me give you a quick rundown of what we're doing. We are taking a very basic, layman, beginner's look at the various tech trees and selecting a lineup of vehicles for realistic battle that I personally think, again, this is my opinion, this is not statistical fact, it is just my thoughts as someone who has played the game for several years and is an average player at the game. My opinion on what you will get the most enjoyment out of while also advancing in the tech tree you decided to grind. This is for new players, this is for old players, this is for players who think they're hot shit but are starting a new tech tree they've never done before and maybe want to get a little bit of assistance. Doesn't matter your skill level. As long as you're here and you're having fun, that's what's important. A couple notes for people who have not seen this series before. Yes, I do everything based on realistic battles because that's where I have the most fun. That's where I think you are going to have the most fun if you're a new player. I highly recommend getting into realistic battles as soon as possible. I will only be taking 5 total vehicles out, even counting air support and everything, because that is the total number of slots that a new player will have fresh out the gate without spending any gold. And if you're sitting there saying, well, I only have 4 slots, spend those silver lions, get the 5th slot, you will thank me later. Without further ado, let's take a look at the German Rank 1 ground forces. Now the Germans, as per usual, need to make things more complicated than necessary. And what I mean by that is their Rank 1 ground force tree is very, 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 very spread out across the battle rating system. You have reserve tanks, you have tanks that are at battle rating 2.3, and everything in between. Because of this, I'm actually going to split this into 2 videos. And again, I said this back in the American tank video. Huge shout out to friend of the channel, Farnarf / Resident Shantyman / whatever name he's currently going by in the Discord server. Way back when I started this series and asked for German vehicle suggestions, he gave great suggestions for the rank 1 vehicles, and we came to the conclusion that there are 2 ways you can do it. You can have a lower tier rank 1 lineup or a higher tier rank 1 lineup, or higher battle rating, I should say. So that's exactly what we're going to do. In this video, we're going to look at a low rank 1 lineup, and then the next video, we're going to look at a high rank 1 lineup. The reason for this is I could easily set up a high battle rating rank 1 lineup and say those are the best tanks, but then you've got to fight to get, through all these lower tier stuff to get to the higher tier stuff. I want to provide you guys with a little bit of help getting through these lower tier stuff and then help you pick the higher tier stuff later. So we're going to do a little bit of both. In this video, we're going to focus on the first couple tanks you're going to be able to get. I hope it makes sense and that's helpful. And if you're waiting on the higher tier stuff, don't worry, there will be a video for that as well. So without further ado, let's take a look at the 5 vehicles we have for our realistic battle loadout for the German ground forces. We have the Panzer 38TA, the Panzer 3F, the Flak Panzer 1, the Panzer Jaeger 1, and the Ju-87R2 as our air support. First up on the chopping block is the Panzer 38T. The Panzer 38T is a light tank at battle rating 1.3. Its primary armament is a 37mm KWK-38T cannon with 90 rounds of ammunition. Its secondary armament is a 7.92mm MG37 machine gun mounted in the turret next to the gun, so it will point where your turret is pointing. It has a maximum turret rotation speed of 10.8 degrees per second, Its vertical guidance is 25 degrees of elevation, 10 degrees of depression, and its reload rate is 4.2 seconds, pretty quick. Its maximum armor thickness on the hull and the turret is 25 millimeters. Its sides and rear will be 15 millimeters for both as well. It has a crew of 4, a mass of 9.7 tons, 125 horsepower of engine power at 2200 RPMs, a max speed of 42 kilometers per hour, and 72% visibility based on simply its height for its size. The Panzer 38 has a couple different ammo types you can load out, the first being the Panzergranat TUMG armor-piercing capped shell, the Panzergranat 40 armor-piercing composite rigid shell, and the Panzer 34T armor-piercing capped shell. Now, the Panzer 38 is going to be the anchor, the rock that this lineup is built on. It is fast, it is fairly nimble, and its 37mm gun is very, very punchy. It is very satisfying to shoot. More often than not, I found myself in positions where this gun feels very point and click, especially if you're shooting at the sides and rear of basically any tank you come up against. You are going to have trouble penetrating some of the heavier armed targets with those Panzergranat 34 and Panzergranat UMG rounds. For that, you can carry some of those Panzergranat 40 armor-piercing rounds with a little bit more penetration, but overall, this gun and this tank are going to do wonders for you. She is a light tank, she is very thinly armed, it is a rank 1 tank. For most of the rank 1 tank battles, it's basically pop guns. One hit, you're out for almost every tank unless you're fighting with something really heavy duty. But this thing is fast enough to get you around the battlefield, its turret turn time is reasonable, its reload speed is reasonable, that it can put up a pretty decent fight against anything it's going to come up against. Especially if you have it fully spaded and upgraded. It comes with the artillery perk, which is going to help you flush enemies out of their hiding spots. Overall, this I recommend be the first tank you take out in almost every battle you do. You're going to be able to go cap those points quickly, sneak around the enemy's flanks quickly, and rack yourself up not only kills, but also those sweet, sweet spawn points and sweet, sweet lions and research points for future grinding needs. The next tank we're going to look at is the Panzer 3F. The Panzer 3F is a medium rank 1 tank at battle rating 1.3. Its primary armament is a 50mm KWK L42 cannon. It also has a smoke grenade launcher and a 7.92mm MG34 machine gun. Its turret rotates at 4.0 degrees per second. Its vertical guidance is 10 degrees of depression and 20 degrees of elevation. Its reload rate is 5.1 seconds. Its armor is a little bit better than the Panzer 38 with 30 millimeters of frontal plating for both the turret and the hull, 30 millimeters of side plating for the turret and the hull, and 30 millimeters in the rear of the turret and 20 millimeters in the rear of the hull. It has a crew of 5, a mass of 19.8 tons. Its engine power is 300 horsepower at 3,000 RPMs, and its maximum speed is 71 kilometers per hour, and its visibility is 88%. This tank can carry 2 types of ammunition, the Panzergranat 39 and the Panzergranat 40. Now, if the Panzer 38 is the rock, the champion of this lineup, I'm going to be honest and say the Panzer 3 is kind of, I don't want to call it the dead weight, because it's not true. It's definitely going to be the harder of these tanks to play. The big reason for that is the turret traverse time. That 4.0 degrees per second is atrocious. Combined with that 5-second reload, you've really got to think about your strategy when you're playing this. You're very quick, 71 kilometers per hour, but oof, you are really hampered by that reload time and the turret turn time. Other than that, the 50mm gun, very, very good. Excellent at knocking out tanks from a greater distance than the Panzer 38T. It is very good if you can get it hold down and keep, your armor angled effectively. This thing is very tanky when it comes to taking blows, as long as it's not fighting anything too big or too up-tiered. But, God, that turret turn, you are going to be turning the hull quite a lot to get your gun around on target. That is the biggest drawback, I think, is your turret turn time and your reload speed. But I have it in this lineup because it rounds it out very nicely. It is a good brawler, in my opinion, from what I've experienced. It can do the work, but you are going to have to put in some effort. I will admit that. But other than that, the Panzer IIIF is decent. You are going to struggle with it a little bit more than the other tanks in this lineup, just being honest with you. Next up, we have the 4.7 centimeter Pak T Panzer Jaeger 1. It is a tank destroyer at battle rating 1.3. Its main gun is a 47mm Pak T SF cannon. Its turret rotation is 9.1 degrees per second. It is hull mounted, so that's not a huge thing. Its vertical guidance is 8 degrees of gun depression, 10 degrees of gun elevation, and its reload is 3.8 seconds. Its hull armor is 13mm all around. Its turret armor is 14mm at the front, 5mm everywhere else. It has a crew of 3, a mass of 6.4 tons. Its engine power is 100 horsepower at 3,000 RPMs, and its maximum speed is 42 km per hour with a visibility of 76%. The Panzerjäger can fire the Panzergranat 36T round or the Panzergranat 40 armor-piercing round. So the Panzerjäger 1 is a fun tank to play. It does have a few drawbacks, but they are minimal in my opinion. It can get around the map reasonably quickly. 42 kilometers per hour is not the best speed, but it does have a nice 47mm gun. You have the ability to eliminate most things that you see from a distance, and that's where this tank shines. If you are on one of the big open maps and you can get a nice line of sight on where you know the enemy is going to be, you need to be the one to fire first. Specifically because you are an open top tank destroyer, it's very easy once the enemy shoots at you. Almost always one of the first things that's going to get knocked out is either your gun or your loader. So your ability to shoot back is going to be diminished almost immediately in any close range firefight. But if you can get set up where you have a nice line of sight on a place where you know the enemy is going to be coming from, especially if they're crossing horizontally across that line of sight and you can get side shots into them, you're going to do amazing work in this thing. Its gun depression is very minimal, 8 degrees. That is a drawback. That means you can't peek hills very well. You almost always have to roll all the way up onto the hill itself, which exposes you greatly to enemy fire. But this is a good first tank destroyer to get you used to the way tank destroyer gameplay works. Most of the early German tank destroyers are going to be these open top, basically anti-tank guns mounted to a chassis. They're a lot of fun to play, but again, it takes time to learn, the strengths and weaknesses. You are not going to be brawling one-on-one with tanks. That's not what you do. You are definitely going to be laying in wait, holding down a position, defending your teammates, that kind of gameplay. Again, if it's not for you, don't go down the German tank destroyer line, but give it a shot, give it a try, see if you can make it work, see what tricky little spots you can find on the various maps, and who knows, you might find that you enjoy yourself. Alright, now we have come to our anti-aircraft gun for this lineup, the Flak Panzer 1. The Flak Panzer 1 is obviously an anti-aircraft gun, an SPAA, at battle rating 1.3 in the German tech tree. Its primary armament is a 20mm Flak 38 cannon. Its turret rotation speed is 27.4 degrees per second. Its vertical guidance is 87 degrees elevation, 10 degrees depression. It can fire at a rate of 480 rounds per minute. Its reload for the magazine is 3.8 seconds. Its hull armor is 13mm all the way around, and its turret armor is 7mm at its thickest point. It has a crew of 2, a mass of 5.5 tons, 57 horsepower at 2,500 RPMs for the engine power, and it can reach a top speed of 31 km per hour, and its visibility is 70%. The Flak Panzer can fire a variety of shell types. including armor-piercing incendiary tracer, high-explosive fragmentation incendiary tracer, and the high-velocity armor-piercing tracer shells. These are laid out in a couple different belts that I will go over here in a minute, but for this vehicle, it may not look all that spectacular, but like I said in the American Tank video, and like I will say in every realistic tank battle video that I go over in this series, take an anti-aircraft gun. You don't have to. I know it's not a lot of people's thing, but my argument for it is, one, most of the AA guns can damage other tanks in most cases, as long as you got the right ammo loaded. You have artillery support, you can spot for your team, and you're an anti-aircraft gun. You can shoot down aircraft, and sometimes that will honestly make the difference for your team. If you've got an enemy aircraft that is just wrecking your guys' day, and no one is doing anything to take them out, you're going to lose the match because you won't be able to drive out of your spawn. Take the Flak Panzer, try it out. Now, obviously, you can load your high explosive fragmentation incendiary tracer shells for aircraft. Yeah, great. Take some of those with you. As you work your way up the modifications, take out some of your armor-piercing shells. You will be surprised how easily you can turn some of these rank 1 enemy tanks into Swiss cheese, especially if you load up that Panzergranat 40 belt, that final belt you unlock. The Panzergranat 40 belt is honestly what I take for aircraft and tanks. It will shred through almost any tank you come up across at your battle rating, so long as you are hitting it from the sides. You can pen some stuff from the front, but you'll pen almost everything from the sides, no matter what. Aircraft, yeah, you're not going to do as much damage per shell with the Panzergranat 40s because they are armor-piercing, but the HVAP and the APIT shells are going to do a lot more damage when they hit things like the engines, the critical components of the aircraft. So yeah, you're not getting that shredding across the fuselage, but I have set so many engines on fire with a couple well-placed Panzergranat 40 rounds from the Flak Panzer. I highly recommend that if your team is down and out and you don't have enough spawn points to take out an aircraft or a full-size tank, take this thing out. You'll be surprised at some of the situations you'll be able to get out of with it. It is a fun little thing to drive around. I will admit, though, you are weak because you're open-topped. You know, an enemy tank sneezing in your direction can kill most of your crew. But that just means your gameplay is going to be exciting, if not, you know, short-lived. But hey, try it out. Let me know what you think. And finally, our air support should come as no surprise for early war Germany, the Ju-87 R2 Stuka dive bomber. It is a rank 1, battle rating 1.3 dive bomber for the German Luftwaffe. It has a myriad of armaments it can carry out, but my personal favorite to use is the 1,000 kilogram SC-1000L2 bomb. It has a 7.92mm machine gun in the rear, and two 7.92mm machine guns mounted in the wings for strafing attacks. It has a crew of 2, a maximum speed of 283 kilometers per hour, a maximum altitude of 7,000 meters, a maximum turn time of 27.0 seconds, a rate of climb of 9.6 meters per second, and a takeoff run of 434 meters. Now, the Ju-87, I said in the air video, it's a fantastic plane. All the variants are fun to fly. I specifically chose the R2 because it meets the battle rating to keep these guys in the same match. And that 1,000-pound bomb just shreds anything you drop it even remotely close to. You do have to be careful. You're an aircraft, you're susceptible to ground fire, and a lot of these early war tanks at rank 1 have lots of machine guns to shoot at you with. Even the medium tanks have a lot of hull-mounted machine guns, or their primary gun is a cannon that fires relatively quickly. But once you drop your bomb, you are not out of the fight yet because you have those two 7.62mm machine guns, which any other time I would say it's not worth it, but because you're at low rank, you have a lot of open-topped or thinly armored vehicles that those 7.62mm machine guns can actually shred relatively easily. You do only have 2 of them, and depending on where you set your gun conversions, it can be a little tricky to get them on target, but with a little bit of practice, you will be able to be pretty effective so long as you keep your wits about you. Now, be warned, with the bomb this size, you need to set a bomb delay of at least 1.5 seconds, if not 2 seconds. I definitely have blown myself out of the sky with the shockwave of my own bomb. You either need to make sure you're dropping from a high enough altitude you can stay clear of the blast, or make sure you have a long enough delay on your bomb to not get knocked out of the sky at the same time that you have dropped the bomb. I will say, though, it does occasionally work out in your favor. Once in a blue moon, you'll have an enemy on your tail, you'll drop your bomb on a tank, and you'll not only get a zesty tank kill, but you'll find that you have achieved an air kill as well, because you have blasted the enemy plane on your tail out of the sky with your own bomb. When that happens, it's really, really satisfying. Definitely lots of fist pumping in my gaming room when that happens. But yeah, the Ju-87R2, can't go wrong with it. Definitely worth the price of a vehicle slot to take out those pesky campers hiding in the cliffs on some of these maps. And yeah, just like that, that's the 5 vehicle lineup I would recommend for very, very, very first time players to the German ground forces tech tree. For those of you who are saying, oh, but I don't want to take the Ju-87, okay, fine, don't take the Ju-87. Or the Flak Panzer, the Panzer. If you don't like a tank in this lineup, that's fine. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. I'm just giving you my best suggestions. And if you're saying, but Red, I'm an arcade player, I can't take a plane and a tank together, okay, swap that Ju-87 for a Panzer 38 TF. Or if you don't want to go up a tier, go down to, throw the Panzer 3C in there. You're smart. I trust you. I trust your judgment. You'll figure it out. But with that, this is going to be the end of this video. The tank ones, I'll be honest, are a lot harder to do. It's a lot more information that I gotta remember and try to throw out there. So if you think there is something I could be doing better with the tank videos specifically, or the videos in general as far as the Welcome to War Thunder series is concerned, please let me know politely in those comments down below. If there is a specific tech tree you want me to do next, I'm kind of going across in order. My next is going to be, well, after the next Germany Rank 1 ground video, it'll be Russia, then Great Britain, then Japan. If there's a nation you want to see before then, and there's support for it in the comments, or if you want me to go back and hit up the next level in a tech tree, for example, if you saw Rank 1 American Air, and you want to know what's going to be good for Rank 2, or Rank 1 American Ground Forces, and you want to see what's good for Rank 2 there, let me know as well, and I don't have to strictly do these in order. I do eventually want to hit all the nations, but I don't have to do them all right away. With that, I will leave you guys to it. Have a great rest of your day. If you're feeling up to it and you want to see more videos like this, please share it with your friends, follow the channel here, subscribe, all that jazz, all that YouTube stuff, and come check out the live streams over on Twitch. We're going to be hopefully doing them more frequently now that I am back in town. But I'm going to call it here, because if I keep talking, I'll be here for 4 more hours. Have a great rest of your day, guys, and I'll catch you next time.